Hello, you absolute legends. 2.5 years ago, I covered the Rocket League player known as Shimmy. Shimmy was an incredible freestyler who would upload awe-inspiring montages showcasing his prowess. Shimmy was so good, he even pioneered brand new techniques and was able to do things that no other player could. Shimmy was even invited into a well-respected freestyle team. However, Shimmy's empire would eventually come crashing down after it was uncovered that for a period spanning at least a year, Shimmy had been cheating. Shimmy had been doctoring replays, he was manually changing the trajectory and speed of the ball. He had also been altering the camera angle after the fact, to make it appear as though he was making shots completely blind. Naturally, after being exposed for faking his clips, Shimmy was promptly removed from his team. At which time it seems like Shimmy took an indefinite break from Rocket League. But it wouldn't take long for Shimmy to make his return to gaming. Only this time, he had shifted his focus to aim trainers. Aim trainers are incredibly useful when it comes to developing the skills necessary to be competitive in first-person shooters. But over the years, entire communities have developed that focus almost entirely on the trainers themselves. Players compete for high scores on various exercises, just like they would in any other game. And it's here that Shimmy would again find himself entrenched in the competitive scene. Shimmy quickly developed his abilities, and in a relatively short amount of time, he entered the upper echelon of players. Shimmy became an incredible aimer, who would upload awe-inspiring montages showcasing his prowess. Shimmy became so good, he even pioneered brand new techniques, and was able to do things that no other player could. Shimmy was even invited into a well-respected aiming team. However, Shimmy's empire would eventually come crashing down after it was uncovered that for a period spanning at least a year, Shimmy had been cheating. Yes, it happened again. In an almost beat-for-beat replay, Shimmy did the exact same thing. For a second time, he had infiltrated a community and established himself as a top-tier player through cheating. And now for a second time, he has been completely exposed. In this video, we will take another look at someone who is quickly becoming one of the most notorious cheaters of all time. I really hope you enjoy. Now legends, a big shout out to today's sponsor, Watcher of Realms. Watcher of Realms is a really fun fantasy RPG that I've played a ton. It combines classic fantasy RPG elements with tower defense, which are two of my favorite genres. The graphics are amazing, and there is over 200 unique heroes across 10 factions to collect and develop. Watcher of Realms is currently celebrating its 2nd anniversary, and to kick things off they are introducing a brand new class, the Tactician. Heroes from this new Tactician class are able to change position on the grid in real time using their ultimate. This gives them a huge amount of tactical flexibility. We also have two amazing new champions, Moradin and Valara. These Tacticians can instantly reposition to buff allies, lower enemy defenses, and push them back. As part of celebrations, there are also a bunch of events packed with incredible rewards. Make sure to log in daily and participate in activities to earn the legendary hero Astral, skins, emotes, a legendary skill crystal, and heaps more. Watcher of Realms has a great selection of game modes, including the campaign, arena, guild boss, and intense guild v guild battles. And honestly, it's the perfect time to start playing. Just click the link in the description or scan the QR code to download Watcher of Realms for free on PC, Android, and iOS. I have a confession to make. When it comes to using a keyboard and mouse, I am terrible. I spent my formative years slaving away in front of a Nintendo 64, and I have to say I was pretty good. I became one of the best in the world on that platform. But of all of the control schemes one could possibly get good at, the Nintendo 64 is probably the most useless. The control stick is completely different to modern control sticks, so I couldn't even transition to modern consoles. And by the time I wanted to play first-person shooters on the PC, it seemed like such a daunting task. I was going up against people who had played on PC since they were kids, and my lack of experience shows. I am just terrible at using a mouse. But let's say I wanted to develop my mouse skills in the quickest possible way. What should I do? If I was serious, there is no doubt that I should invest some time into playing an aim trainer like Kovacs. Kovacs strips away everything involved in a first-person shooter except for the aiming element. Players create scenarios that work on specific techniques, whether it be your ability to track a moving object or your ability to quickly move to new targets. Most scenarios last for 60 seconds, at which time you are given a score. Obviously, the idea is to play scenarios to improve your skill, and the score just gives you a metric that you can use to track your progress. For most people, aim trainers are simply a means to an end. What they really want to do is excel at competitive shooters, and aim trainers are just a way to improve their ability quickly. But it's not usually the focus. According to the aimer Viscose, a player should generally spend around 20% of their total playtime in an aim trainer, and 80% of their time in whichever game they want to improve at. However, there are some people who do take aim trainers very seriously, and the aim trainers themselves can become the central focal point of their play. The mere fact that Kovacs gives you a score and even has built-in leaderboards means that some people are going to compete, and the most dedicated aimers will spend hundreds or even thousands of hours in aim trainers alone. There have even been live esports-like competitions where players go head-to-head for the highest score. And it's this form of competitive aiming that caught Shimmy's eye. Shimmy joined the aiming community in April of 2023, only a few months after getting exposed in Rocket League, and it appears as though everyone in the aim community didn't realize exactly who Shimmy was, or recognize him from his previous cheating. This allowed him to go under the radar. Over the course of the next year, Shimmy made steady progress, eventually reaching the rank of Grandmaster on the Voltaic leaderboards, putting him in around the top 1% of all players. In theory, this is where progress should begin to slow down dramatically, as Shimmy was edging closer to the skill ceiling. But that's not what happened. Beginning in around May of 2024, Shimmy launched himself into the aiming stratosphere. He would continue to improve his scores at an insane rate. Just 6 months later, he reached the rank of Astra, and was ranked inside the top 30 in the world. Shimmy became so good, he even developed brand new aiming meta. In August of 2024, Shimmy unveiled his new method called the Shimmy Static Technique, which was a different way to approach scenarios involving static targets. Shimmy's method flew in the face of established best practice. Historically, the commonly agreed upon best practice when it comes to switching between static targets is to flick as quickly as you can and then make a micro adjustment if you need to once your crosshair is close to the target. Shimmy claimed that flicking was a bad idea and that it was better to smoothly transition between targets with full control over the mouse the entire way. Shimmy even offered coaching services to those who wanted to improve their aim, and he was now respected enough within the community that people did take him up on that offer, though reviews of Shimmy's coaching were mixed. Shimmy seemed obsessed with conquering aim trainer scenarios, rather than developing a robust technique that could be directly applied to competitive play. His coaching revolved around learning the ins and outs of aim trainers, which isn't exactly what people were interested in. While people do use aim trainers to practice specific skills, what they really want to do is to be able to kill their opponents quickly in a live game. And when it came to helping people get closer to their dream of becoming an esports pro, Shimmy was of little help. In reality, the best aimers and the best FPS pros don't use Shimmy's technique, and there seems to be almost universal agreement among the top echelon that Shimmy's smooth gliding technique leads to forming terrible habits that don't transition to real-world FPS play.
You need to understand that the way you should approach flicking and static dots is not actually one smooth movement, because that will, if you're going very fast, that will be very, very hard to actually, consistently hit on target if you move like that. Or it will just keep you slow. The idea is to actually make a very fast flick, as fast as you can with your arm, and then you will land somewhere close to the dot, possibly even on the dot once you get very good. And then, you have to wait for your brain to realize where you landed, or kind of predict where you're gonna land based on the movement, depending on how good you are. And then micro-correct. Micro-correction means that you're basically flicking again, but on a very, very, very small angle. So it's not really a flick, because it would be just a little movement of the hand. And then you land on the dot. That's the idea. So you split into movements.
Evidently, Shimmy's technique worked for him, or at least it seemed to in aim trainers. But when it came time for Shimmy to test his skills in actual combat, things went south very, very quickly. In early 2025, Shimmy wanted to branch out from aim trainers and try his hand at games like Valorant and Call of Duty. He would then post his best clips to YouTube in small montages. It was clear from these montages that Shimmy's ability in these games didn't quite meet expectations, given how good he was supposed to be at aiming. Shimmy's aim was noticeably off, and considering that these were supposed to be his highlights, things didn't add up. Still, Shimmy had a lot of cred left over from his aim training, and despite his game clips being a bit lackluster, he managed to find himself invited onto Team EXE. Team EXE are a team that specialize in clip farming for FPS games. If Shimmy wanted to make his team proud, he needed to up his game. And that is exactly what Shimmy did. In May, Shimmy posted a clip montage of himself playing Battlefield 5, and here, his aim was incredible. His ability to lock onto enemies was almost inhuman. In early June, Shimmy posted another montage, this time of Call of Duty, and once again, his play was unbelievable. He would snap to enemies in a way that was almost robotic, and he could track them as they moved perfectly. Shimmy had finally figured out how to transition his skills from aim trainers to real games. It seemed like he was finally ready to reach new heights. And then, the very next day, Team EXE tweeted that they had kicked Shimmy from the team for cheating. According to Team EXE, Shimmy was using soft aim in his recent videos, soft aim being an external tool that allows you to lock on to enemies. They would then follow up this tweet by posting a video from the YouTuber Enders, who explained in detail how Shimmy's aim was too good and too specific to be legitimate.
Let's focus on the first kill now. Start shooting at this guy. Again, the pre-aim, he's shooting him in the face right now. No reason to adjust the aim, but he does anyway, and he immediately flicks to the belt line of this player. Boom, right there. Let's watch that in real time now, or slow motion. Flicks to the belt line of the player. Don't know why you would do that if you're headshotting him, but okay. Now we're gonna go to the second kill. He overflicks this player twice, and then after the second overflick, he basically locks on to the belt line of the second player and has a micro track that's more visible. There was a micro track at the end of the first kill, which I suppose I will point out. It's very, very subtle. Right there. You can just barely see it. But now we will go over the second kill. So overflicks twice. There. There. Now you will see his aim lock on to the belt line of this player with a micro track. Boom, right there, and he tracks him.
At this point, there was no real concrete evidence that Shimmy cheated other than the fact that his aim looked impossible to legitimate players. But their assessment turned out to be correct, as a week later, Shimmy would post a confession. According to Shimmy, he ended up cheating because a friend of his exposed him to an aimbot, and he just got sucked into it. He lamented that using an aimbot had left him feeling depressed and regretful, but he assured everyone that he had never cheated in aim trainers and never will. The entire confession was melodramatic and full of deflection. But a lot of people seem to believe Shimmy that his cheating was only restricted to his recent clip montages, and all of his aim training achievements were still legit. Personally, I wasn't so trusting. As soon as I found out that Shimmy had cheated again, I was very skeptical about his aim training. I was clueless about aim trainers, and honestly, I was clueless about modern FPS. But I knew one thing from my experience with cheaters in the past. The most likely way to detect cheating with an aim trainer would be if the aim trainer was communicating with a server. In order to cheat, the most obvious way would be to slow the game down using Cheat Engine, and then speed the footage back up to make it look normal. And if that occurred, there should end up being some discrepancy between what information is shown on screen and the information that was stored on the server. And this discrepancy would be caused by the game running at a different speed in real time. I assumed the answer would lay there, though of course I'm obviously not the person to know how to dig any deeper. This avenue would need to be explored by experts, and that's where the aimers Viscose and Ricky would come in. The first thing that needed to be identified was if the aim trainer communicated directly with a server and what, if any, information was stored. Obviously, when you achieve a new high score, it is stored on the server, which can be viewed publicly. But it turns out that Kovacs stores quite a bit of information about runs. In the aim trainer itself, you can view different stats for each score on the leaderboard. For example, the average FPS, the settings, and the date and time. On the Kovacs website, it even tracks the last 10 runs for each scenario, and if you know how, it is possible to retrieve all of the data for these 10 runs. And when Viscose and Ricky looked into this data, they found something extremely interesting. Let's look at the last 10 runs of Shimmy for the scenario Shim Micro. There is a bunch of information stored, but what's most useful is the start time, the time the run was submitted to the server, and the FPS. The start and submission time should tell us how long the run took in real time, as the run is usually uploaded immediately when the run ends. In this case, we can see that for 6 runs in a row, the average SPS remained around the same value. And then for the 4 most recent runs, the FPS jumped up by an increase of around 10%. There really is no good explanation for this, especially given the runs were all in the same session and so close to each other. Coinciding with the 10% increase in FPS, we can also see that the length of the runs increased by about 10% as well, from 1 minute flat to around 1 minute and 7 seconds. And coinciding with the increases in FPS and time, we can see that Shimmy's score also increased by around 10%. The only theory that would explain the sudden rise of all of these values at the same time and by the same amount is if Shimmy had begun to use slow motion, lowering the game speed to around 90%. With each second taking longer in real time, this explains the jump in frames per second. It also explains why the runs themselves were taking longer in real time. And the slow motion explains why Shimmy suddenly jumped in skill by 10%. However, while this is already pretty strong evidence that Shimmy was cheating, it's not exactly proof. Perhaps Shimmy closed a bunch of programs that made his FPS rise. Perhaps Shimmy's internet connection played up at the same time, and that would explain why his runs were delayed in uploading to the server. And maybe Shimmy decided to engage the clutch during the countdown and start in second gear, which is why his score suddenly increased. Unfortunately, we don't have a video of these runs to cross-check the information on screen with the information stored on the server, but all hope was not lost. Luckily, Shimmy had recently uploaded a video to YouTube of his PB on the scenario VT Multiclick Advanced, and this PB happened to be the last run he had done on that scenario, which meant we had both the stored data and the video. Notice how in the top right corner there are 2 timers. The bottom timer is the session timer, and the top timer is synced directly with the Windows timer. So in theory, the timer that appears right when the run begins should be the same as the stored challenge start time in the metadata. I wanted to test this myself, so I recorded a PB on the scenario Fireworks Flick Easy. According to the data stored on the Kovacs website, the scenario began at 22:33:01, and when I check my video recording of that PB, the timer appears exactly the same. And this should be the case with every single run, because this timer on screen should be the same as the Windows timer, which is the exact same time that is stamped into the metadata of the run. When we look at the metadata for Shimmy's PB, as per the Kovacs website, we can see that his run started at 02:38:55. And when we check the video of his PB, we can see that his timer is 02:39:32. There is a discrepancy of over 30 seconds. This is literally impossible. This timer is fake and has been edited into the run with video editing software. This is now concrete proof that Shimmy has been doctoring his videos. And alongside the other evidence regarding his increases in FPS, time, and scores, we can say without a shadow of a doubt that Shimmy has been cheating in his aim trainer scores. Looking back, Viscose and Ricky identified that Shimmy started cheating in around May of 2024, which coincides with his rapid rise into the very tippy top of the ranks. Before May of 2024, Shimmy always played with these timers on screen. Then in May, his timers suddenly vanished. Over the course of the next year, his timer would sporadically appear and disappear, and it would always be in a different position. This is extremely bizarre behavior, as most players simply never touch their timer settings. They also found a video Shimmy posted to Discord in June of 2024, which showed timers that were so obviously fake you wouldn't even need to cross-check them with the stored data. They just looked nothing like normal timers that appear inside the trainer. Obviously, Shimmy improved the look of his timers after this point, but the fact that he was already faking timers proved he was cheating at this time. Before posting her findings to YouTube, Viscose reached out to Shimmy to let him know his jig was up, and Shimmy didn't deny the accusations. At this stage, things were pretty conclusive anyway, so continuing to claim he wasn't cheating wouldn't have been an effective strategy. After everything was finally uncovered, Shimmy claimed he just wanted to disappear. But in a final FU to the community, he went and deleted all of the training scenarios he had ever created, along with a ton of scenarios that had been developed by other people. It's clear that Shimmy is a compulsive cheater. It's honestly pretty shocking to me that after everything that happened in Rocket League, he would move on to a brand new community and repeat everything again. And he didn't even bother to change his name. He cheated in Rocket League, cheated in AIM trainers, and then immediately cheated in Battlefield and Call of Duty. Shimmy has easily cemented himself in the Cheating Hall of Fame. It's really quite a rare achievement to cheat your way to the top of two completely separate communities. The only question that now remains is what game will Shimmy cheat in next? I guess we will all just have to wait and see. A huge thanks to Viscose for helping me learn about the situation, and for her work with Ricky in exposing Shimmy's cheating. She also covered the situation in her own video, so if you want the perspective of one of the best aimers in the world, definitely go and give her video a watch as well. Also thanks to Anima and T-John for helping me as well. And a big shout out to Kovac for tipping me off about Shimmy when the news broke. Thank you so much for watching, you legends. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video.